Member for North Coast.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise today to speak in support of Bill 6, the Electoral Reform Referendum 2018 Act, which will allow British Columbians to vote on a fundamental tenet of our democracy, how MLAs are elected. Although the first past the post system, in which government is formed by the party with the most representatives elected in individual electoral districts and is the most widely used in Canada, proportional representation is the most widely used system in the world. It refers to any method of voting where a political party's share of the seats in the legislature represents its share of the popular vote in all electoral districts. Adoption of a proportional representation system would mean that British Columbia never again has a situation like we had in 2001, where a party gets just over 50% of the vote and yet occupies 98% of the seats in this legislature. Shameful. People in this province and around the country have said time and again that they are tired of the current first-past-the-post system, which does not adequately represent them in this House. This is why we have decided to let a simple majority of British Columbians decide whether or not we pursue electoral reform. This is an exciting time in our province, and I am certain that the proposed referendum and accompanying legislation is going to lead to the development of a more fair and robust democracy in British Columbia. For too long, the acrimonious nature of our partisan political system has drowned out the voices of everyday British Columbians who feel their government does not adequately represent their needs. The political theatre and partisanship fostered through the winner-takes-all nature of our current system unquestionably affects the way parties govern. On the other hand, governments with proportional representation are by their very nature more collaborative, as one party rarely has the type of broad-range support needed to form a majority government. This has the potential to lead to more diversity and less partisanship in our political system. I, for one, believe that the government should be comprised of a diversity of people and ideas in order to reflect the many and varied people who help build and sustain this province. It is perhaps not surprising that the BC Liberals are opposed to this bill. During their time in government, even though they represented less than half the voters in this province, they refused to cooperate with opposition parties. This act will not legislate a change. It will instead enable a province-wide referendum to determine the best way forward. The results of this referendum are binding and will allow a simple majority of citizens to decide whether or not to adopt proportional representation. If they vote in favour of electoral reform, we take steps to implement. Whatever system chosen in time for the next election in 2021. If the people of this province vote down these changes, then we will not move forward. Throughout this process, our government has committed to extensive engagement with British Columbians in order to allow them to have a say in the selection of the question or questions about electoral reform that will appear on the ballot. We will also welcome submissions and input from political parties during the engagement process and encourage the official opposition and the third party to consult with their stakeholders, advertise, campaign on the system that they want to see enacted. The members opposite have spoken at great length about the implications of such a dramatic change in our electoral system, but during their time in government, the BC Liberal Party tried to make changes to the system numerous times because they know that our current system is not working for all of the people in this province. Honourable Speaker, I come from a rural riding, and I want to make sure that my constituents are well represented in this House. I am cognizant of the implications of proportional representation in my geographically large riding with a comparatively small population. But after 16 years of one party with a bare majority of the votes in this province having all the power in this House, I know there needs to be change in our system. And there are many options to better represent the diversity and unique characteristics of this vast province. I encourage all the members of this House to support this bill and let the people of the province decide what type of electoral system they want to see in this province. I believe with all of the engagement we're planning and the way the referendum is structured, This bill will be a really positive step in the development of our democracy. I encourage all members of this House to vote in favor of Bill 6. Thank you.
Hear, hear.